Alright, so now I've made a template that will line up with those holes and the drain. And I've transferred that template onto a piece of wood and drilled some pilot holes in there. And now I'm going to put it on the shop vac just to keep from getting quite as much sawdust everywhere. And then I'll use this hole saw first to cut out the center hole, and then I'll switch to this hole saw and cut out the water supply lines. Oops. Come on, go in there. Okay. Alright, now I want to come down on this as straight as I can. And you can see that I'm a little bit off because I'm starting to hit over here and less over there. So let me turn this up to drill mode and try to scooch it over just a little bit. I'm going to be careful about this. So I'm trying to make the best hole I can here. Well, I hope I have enough battery to drill this hole. And I'm just cleaning up the teeth a little bit. I'm going to flip it over so that the tear out doesn't happen. It'll happen, but in the middle, where it'll be just fine. This could be one of the slowest drilling operations I've ever done. Now flip back to this side, clean the teeth out, and go at it again. Now you're seeing a bit of weakness from cordless drills. And it looks like I'm going to have to call that. Charge up another battery. Alright, so I got the first hole drilled. Zoop. And then I went to put this on the arbor. Same brand. But the arbor doesn't fit in there. So now I gotta go back to the store and find something that will work. So another delay. Okay, now I've had to go back and get a different kind of drill bit because I didn't see an arbor that would make that thing work at all. Good thing is they traded it in or whatever, swapped this out for this other kind of bit. I drilled the 2 holes for the pipes, but I do have a little bit of an alignment problem with that drain. So I'm going to mark that out and expand that kind of to the bottom and left of there by hand. I'll sand it out with this little roll of sandpaper, just basically a roll of pretty coarse sandpaper, probably 60 grit or something. Get that hole widened out so it can fit the rest of the way down, and then I'm going to have to work on something to keep it in place so it doesn't move forward or backward in that hole. Alright, now I'm getting it to set in there, and you can see there's a little mark right there. That is transferred from the side of the pipe where it's still too tight. I stick it on there. And slide it in. And you can see it's almost in the right place, but still has a little point of contact along that bottom side there that I want to trim up a little bit so that it can sit exactly flush all the way around. And when I get that done, then I'll be able to, finish off that section, get that section in and secured. I'll use a piece of wood behind there to suck it up against there. And I believe that is roughly the same size. Oh, now it's not going to come out. Roughly the same size as the thickness of the wall where I'm trying to pull it through. And we'll get that in there and get that secured. Although theoretically I could tighten it up against that friction point there. But I'd like to have it a little more secure than that so that it's not going to be moving around in there too much. On with the next part. Alright, now I've got those boards put in there, or at least one of them, so that it has a little hook cut in it. So it'll slip around that thing just to kind of hold it in place, because I won't be able to get my fingers back in behind there. And then when that gets screwed to this board will have a screw through it that will run into that and tighten everything up, at least in theory. So this other one, I've got a hole in it, and now I'll just need to cut a slot out in this fashion so that when it slips up and over there, it will kind of hang on it in its resting position. And then as long as that screw starts into that wood on the back side, it'll be fine. Now if it doesn't, I may have to put something behind there to keep it pushed forward so that I can get a drill or a screw to start into it. That shouldn't be too tough, I don't think. I'll put a piece of blocking back there and just wedge it, and it kind of doesn't matter if it falls down once the screw is in, because then that screw will hold it this way. The drain will keep it from going too far in, so it'll be wedged in there with the backing plate and the drain. Keep going. Alright, now I've got this in, screwed on. I used these little pieces of rope that I threaded behind the board that runs vertically through there and got them stuck on there so that that's all in good. Now I just pull the string out and that's completed. Now I need to solder up those valves on there, and you have to use this not solder lead-free stuff, and you've got to have the non-lead paste in order for that to work. And it's a little difficult. I got a bunch of paste flux gobbed on there, and then I'm going to heat it up with a propane torch. I usually use a little candle to get that going, so that, come on now, that I can get it started as many times as I need to. And then we're going to just start heating it on the back side. You want to get some heat into that joint before I try to pull some solder into it. And what you want to do is have the solder get drawn into that joint, so that makes a complete seal all the way around there. And that this tank is just about out, so I'm hoping that I got enough juice to do this. And then you get some length of solder ready to go on there. And that's way too cold, which I thought it would be. It's going to take a minute to get this heated up to a soldering point. And I, beforehand, I sanded those pipes and soaked them down with vinegar to make them as clean as I could get them. And when it starts to go, you can kind of feel it, and hopefully it'll suck that solder right into the joint. Just not ready to do it yet. And you can see it's just, well, I don't know if you can see that or not, but now I'm getting a little bit of bead of solder there, but it's not drawing it into that joint like I want. Alright, it's starting to go. And you can see it's starting to feed in there now. Oh, and get a little drip off there. Now I'm hoping that one's in there, and then you want to just cool it with some water. Whew, that's hot. Trying to seal that joint up. And hopefully that's all there is to it. I can get this other one going, and then we got to go downstairs in the basement, which may be even tougher. I'll get this one soldered up, and we'll reconvene in the basement. Alright, now we're underneath in the basement, inside the cold air return. So there's a piece of metal that covers this entire thing. So none of this is visible. really, when you get done, so nobody will care what it looks like. But the first thing I have to do is get these caps back off. I put those on when I started the job because, well, I had open pipes and I needed to, still use water for a while I was repairing it. And one thing you should know is that if the pieces are very close together like that, that's going to be bad news. Try to get in there and work on it. Also, if there's any water in the pipes, that water has to be completely gone, 100%, because water can cool things down like you can't believe. That's why they use it in nuclear reactors, because water can put out a nuclear reaction. That's just how much heat it can take. So this one, to keep it away from that a little bit, I got this little bird, and I'm gonna just put the bird under the pipe to jack it up a little bit back here where it crosses the I-beam. I'll just stick it under there. Let that up. Put the bird under there, and that'll give me some separation there between those things. And maybe I'll have to get something to wedge it away from that side too, so I get, good separation all the way around. I'm kind of killing time a little bit so that those pipes will get drained out. I turned off the water to the house and then opened up the pipe, the faucet that's the lowest in the house, which is down here in the basement. And that's got to let all that water out of there, and then I'll be able to start getting those caps off. And I'm thinking getting those caps off is going to take me a while. I'm probably not going to do that on camera, because that just is crazy. Well, here I am in the middle. I got that one done, or I hope it's done. This one, I'm having trouble getting that cap off, and thinking maybe it's a nuclear reactor is what we need to get the water burned out of there or something. I had it moving just a little bit for once, and then the light bulb burned out. But that's one thing about plumbing, is you can't, well, I suppose you could give up, but giving up is really not an option. You gotta keep going until you get it done. Alright, I got it back together now. Got the cap off, got that new fitting on. I bought new fittings because old fittings can be a bit tricky. They got gunk in them and they bind up, and that's really where leaks come from, is when you get the space around that joint where it's making hard contact with metal. That can keep the solder from getting all the way around there. So you want to have kind of a loose fit a little bit to get that all working in there. But I think I have got it. Well, it's worth a shot anyway. I was going to use the old one because it's brass, and I thought it would be able to sort of work with some of these. End up egg shaping that pipe, actually both of them, when I was getting everything torn apart. And I use that brass fitting to kind of round things back out again. But I think they're round enough now that I can solder that up. So that'll be the last joint. And that's kind of the harder part too, is when it's the last joint, you've got no wiggle room, right? It has to be in there more or less solid in the right place before you start doing anything. You can't wiggle it around anything or get any kind of movement on it to get the solder to go around it. Hopefully this will seal up and we won't have more and more parts to this. Well, now that side has decided to spring a leak too. This is all bad. Alright, I'm down to just one leak, and I think switching out to that rigid copper really helped a lot. Everything's sealed up except that one little spray right there. And I think one of the things I learned is that when you do these elbows, you've got to do both sides at the same time. You can't just do one side and go to the other and expect the other one to stay when you do the second one. I thought that was my final attempt, but no. I'm about to give up on this thing, but I went up and I opened the package of the PEX Shark Bite thing and tried to find the installation instructions, and of course there's a QR code, whatever the heck that is, and so I went to the website and I looked around and it said that I couldn't use it on a copper-to-copper connection, and I thought, well, that's sort of weird. So I called the guy at the company, really great guy, and he talked me through what I bought and what I was reading weren't the same thing. But I have to come and take that old joint off and then cut it off and then sand it, get it smooth, and then put it in that Shark Bite connector. So that way I'll one more try. And I did it and I soldered it, and then I saw a drip. And it's not leaking from this joint anymore, it's leaking from upstairs. So I gotta go up there and figure out what the next steps are. Will it ever end? Alright, I've tried this joint several 4 or 5 really times, and alright, this is the last joint, and I've tried it 4 or 5 times, and I've decided against using the Shark Bite because I'd have to take it apart and cut both ends of it and put it back together, and that seems like more work than getting this to actually stick. And so what I'm gonna do is, because this solder does not flow worth a crap, I'm going to heat up the joint and then withdraw it halfway and give it a quarter turn to kind of force the solder to spread around a little bit, because it just likes to stay in a clump and not do anything that I want it to do. Looks like it had a little water in there. That'll keep it from getting hot. Okay. Now I'm just going to move it. Oh, didn't mean to back it up that much. Okay. Now I'm going to try to solder it back. And then push it in. I need 3 hands for this. Let's see. Let's put a little flux on it. Maybe that'll help it. Alright, let's see if that did it. Oh, that does not look good at 6 o'clock position. So let me try to give that a little more of a go. Start the fire back up again. Is right there on the bottom. It just does not seem to be taking up any solder. It's not sticking. Give it some more flux and see if we can get it to go. Might be missing a good deal. Okay, it's finally stopped leaking after many attempts. I think, even though I didn't use those shark bites, mostly because I'm weighing the cost of taking the joint apart, cutting the joint down, sanding it all smooth, and putting that thing on, versus just getting it perfectly right to go in there. And I suppose if I was doing it all over again, I would sort of measure the cost of how much it costs for this lead-free solder versus how much it costs for those shark bite things, and determine which one is more economical in terms of labor and solder and so on to begin with. Those things are $10 a piece versus $1 a piece for a copper elbow. So it's quite a price differential. But if you start out on a path, I am never going to make fun of anybody who uses those shark bite connectors anymore. Never. Hey, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe.